It was a bright Monday morning in early spring, and like many English villages, Churchwood was going quietly about its daily business. Until a scream shattered the calm and froze passers-by in their tracks. Having just emerged from the bakery, Kate Fletcher was one of them, though she froze only for a moment. As another scream lacerated the air, she whirled around to see the tall, lanky figure of Marjorie Plym, waving her arms hysterically as she ran down the path from the church. What on earth? Kate was tall too, and having worked on a farm all her life, she was both fit and dressed in practical breeches with her long chestnut hair secured in a no-nonsense plait down her back. She wasn't the only person who moved towards Marjorie, but she was by far the quickest, throwing her shopping basket down beside her bicycle, then racing across the village green to catch Marjorie as she stumbled through the churchyard lich gate and collapsed in tears. "What is it, Marjorie? What's happened?" Kate asked, easing the older woman to the ground. Marjorie was too hysterical to answer. Oh, heck. Kate wasn't good at this sort of thing. She hadn't had the practice. As a member of the notoriously rough Fletcher family, Kate had been shunned in Churchwood for most of her life. As a result, she'd always treated her neighbours with bold-eyed disdain, despite loathing her family just as much as anyone. Only since Alice Lovell had moved to the village and befriended her had Kate's sharp edges softened. Gradually, she'd welcomed the village into her life just as, with Alice's influence, the village had started to welcome her. Even gossip-loving and rather silly Marjorie, once one of her snootiest critics. Despite that, Kate was still out of her depth when it came to dispensing comfort and sympathy. She glanced around desperately and was relieved to see Alice, now her best friend, approaching through a gathering sea of other faces. Alice might be a slight, fair-haired little thing, but she was both clever and compassionate. She'd know exactly how to handle Marjorie. "I've no idea what's going on," Kate told her. "Can you take Marjorie while I investigate?" Alice looked at Marjorie's prostrate form, then sent Kate a sympathetic glance as she got down beside her and reached for the older woman. "Come to me, Marjorie. Kate needs to get up." Whimpering, Marjorie slithered over to Alice, who nodded at Kate to suggest it was fine for her to go now. Relieved that Marjorie was quietening already, Kate stumbled up and ran along the path to the church. St. Luke's had been built from mellow stone and flint in Victorian times, and the entrance was an old oak door. Kate passed through it and stood for a moment to adjust her eyes to the shadows within. There was a central aisle with pews and pillars on each side, an arched roof overhead, and an altar at the front. All was hushed quietness, motes of dust flickering in the light from the high stained glass windows. "Hello?" Kate called. No one answered, and she could see nothing amiss. She set off along the aisle, glancing from side to side and still seeing nothing untoward. Reaching the front pews, she paused and called out again. "Hello?" Silence. But Kate noticed that flowers were scattered beneath some sort of pedestal flower holder. Had Marjorie come in to arrange them only to drop them? A minor accident hardly appeared to justify screams, unless she'd been stung by a bee hiding in the petals. April was early for bee stings, but still possible, and it would be typical of Marjorie to play up a sting to make herself look interesting in the eyes of the village. Kate could see no bee now. Gathering up the flowers, she returned them to the pail in which Marjorie must have brought them. She turned away to leave, and gasped. A foot was sticking out of the half-open vestry door. It was wearing a black sock and a shoe with a hole in the sole. Kate took a steadying breath and walked over to see the rest of the Reverend Septimus Barnes lying on the vestry floor as though he'd fallen backwards, arms outstretched.